And finally, one of the things that we can do with the model after we already assembled all the scans that we had, after we made all the edits to the model and changed the mesh and edited out certain blemishes or some other things, we can texturize the model. So we have this button over here, texturing, and it is active if the scans that you use to build the model contain so-called texture frames. So if I click on one of them, you can see that this is a frame of the actual part. That's how it looks. And you can see that we have such frames in every scan. So here is our first scan, for example. And this is the frame taken during scanning. So this is just a picture. And you can see we have like quite a lot of these frames. They are marked with this pink square. And these frames can be then used to create a texture atlas. So it's just a shrink wrap around this polygonal model that we have. So you can texturize separate results, or you can texturize a final result. In many cases, it's more preferable to use texturing on a final result. It is also true that in many cases you don't really need that function, because if that's a technical part, for example, this one is definitely scanned for reverse engineering purposes, and it doesn't really make much sense to texturize this because, well, it's not a work of art exactly. It's not some artifact or something. So it's just a piece of rusty metal basically. But still, to show the concept, we have this component, this part, and we can click texturing. So when you click it, you can also see the amount of faces that you have on in the model. So it's 1.5 million in this case, which is quite a lot for texturing. So if you have way more than 1 million, it is a good idea to texturize it substantially. Actually, Nest will tell you about this. So if you click texturing, it will say that the model contains more than 700,000 faces, which is like, well, about a reasonable value of triangles on the model to be texturized. So million is kind of okay-ish, but if you have like much more than 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, you definitely have to simplify the model before texturing. So I'm clicking yes, and what it's going to do is going to simplify this model first and then texturize the simplified result. What is important to understand is that this original result that we have, it will not be simplified. So there will be a separate result that will be simplified and then texturized. Okay, texturing, as you can see, took about 1.5 minutes. It all depends on how many scans you have in the assembly, how often those texture frames are following each other, how often they are taken. Okay, so here is our model, and as you can see, we have these two results. One of them textured and one of them is not. So this one is our original model, which with 1.5 million polygons. And this one is our simplified version that just have a little bit less than 700,000. So this is the textured result. And you can see that those pictures that have been taken during scanning are now used to build this atlas and add color to the object, and we can see how it actually looked in a real life. All right, so we can of course save this result. By the way, if you save it, you have to save it as 3MF or OBJ. This is two formats that support texture. So 3MF keeps texture atlas inside the file internally, and OBJ just create a texture file, texture atlas with the same name nearby with a OBJ file. Okay, so what can we do if we want to make some edits? So we have a couple of tools here. First of all, it's of course adjust texture. So here is the texture atlas. It just shows here like a little thumbnail. And we can obviously change brightness and contrast. It's usually a good idea not to go to the extremes like this or like this. Of course, it will be, it wouldn't look very pretty. We can change the contrast also in a reasonable manner, and we can just a little bit change the color balance over here if we like. So it depends on the object, it depends on your preferences, so it is up to you which settings to change. Well, let's say I want to leave it like that. I'm clicking OK. But you can see that this setting changes the brightness and contrast for the entire model. But sometimes we have those, for example, dark areas over here, which I want to brighten up a little bit, but keep all other in the same way. So for this, we can use luminosity brush. So first of all, you can change the size of it, obviously, like with any brush with your mouse wheel. And also, if you right click, you can see the hardness and the strength of it. So it's on 50% by default, but it might be a good idea to make them, well, make this tool less strong. And I can just apply it evenly to this area to brighten it up a little bit over here. Okay. So in the same way, you can actually darken certain areas if you like. So for example, if I want to darken this middle a little bit, I'm just clicking Control and it works in the opposite way. So I can just darken it a little bit. Okay. I'm clicking Accept if everything is okay, and it will be saved into a texture atlas. And another tool that we have, it's a magic clone stamp, which helps to remove blemishes. So I can, of course, change the size of the object. In this case, I'm using Control, so all tool functions are done with Control. So then you can just select the part that you want to remove, like this blemish over here. And I can just select this little area and click on it with Control pressed, and it will be removed. So it's really useful for removing like small imperfections on the object, on the texture atlas. What it does, it just takes colors from the adjacent areas and just replace this area with the adjacent colors. So there's really no magic about it, but it's really convenient, it's really handy, and helps to remove certain blemishes on the texture atlas. I'm clicking Accept, and if everything is okay, we can save this edited result and click Save As, and save it either as 3MF or OBJ, depends on your preferences. So let's say I'm using 3MF, saving this one. And you can also save these files that we have over here. So the model itself, save as, you can choose any of these formats right now, really. So let's say PLY or STL, you can save the file. And also, if you think that you might need all the original files in the edited view, in the all the edited files, you can just select all them and select them as they are right now, so with all the edits. So this is important to emphasize. Here on the right side, we have those original scans. So these are not changed, these are intact. And here are edited scans. If you want to scan to save them, you can also do this. I selected all three. It's possible to do in a batch, so I can just click Save Project As, and let's say make a new folder for it if I want to, and click Select Folder. And these files will be saved, and they will be saved with all the edits I did, with all the priority mode selections, with all the results if I have them, with all the results of registration. If they cleaned, they will be saved as cleaned, and all that. So it's just an easy way to get back to your work if you think you may want to work on this project later on. For example, if you made all these 3 scans and then realize that you're missing something and you go into the object to rescan certain areas, you can save these 3 scans and then add another one to these 3 scans without any need, without any necessity to process these 3 files again. So that's it really. So well, we now have both texturized and non-texturized result, And these are just major, most important functions that we have here in a Calibry nest.